Forgiveness is the strongest faith. My beloved children, I see you where you are right now. Some of you are sitting quietly as the evening settles in. Some are lying awake, staring at a ceiling that feels heavier than the night itself. Some are listening with a heart that has been wounded, hardened, or simply tired of carrying memories that refuse to rest. I invite you, gently, to leave a comment and tell me where you are listening from and what hour it is where you live, so we may share this moment together across distance and time. Now, dim the light, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's gently ease into tonight's teaching's journey together. Forgiveness is the strongest faith because it asks you to trust beyond what your eyes can justify and beyond what your pain insists is reasonable. When you forgive, you step into a place where logic falls silent and love begins to speak. Many of you have been taught that faith is proven by endurance, by obedience, by standing firm when storms come. Yet I tell you, the truest measure of faith is not how long you can endure pain, but how deeply you can release it without becoming what hurt you. You believe faith should feel powerful, unshaken, victorious. But forgiveness often feels weak at first. It trembles in your hands. It feels like surrender, like letting go of a weapon you believe has kept you safe. And yet, forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not denying injustice. It is not calling darkness light. Forgiveness is the quiet decision to stop letting another person's sin continue to rule your inner world. There are wounds that still speak to you at night, words that were spoken years ago but echo as if they were said this morning, betrayals that altered the direction of your life. Some of you were hurt by strangers, others by friends, others by those who were supposed to protect you. And the deepest wounds often come from those who never apologized, never explained, never returned. You learned to carry anger like armor, resentment like proof that what happened mattered. And it did matter. Your pain was real. Your tears were seen. But the question that remains is this: how long will you allow that pain to decide who you become? Forgiveness is not given because the other deserves it. It is given because your soul deserves peace. When you forgive, you are not saying what you did was acceptable. You are saying what you did will no longer imprison my heart. This is why forgiveness requires faith. You must believe that justice does not rest solely in your hands. You must believe that truth does not vanish when you release your grip on revenge. You must trust that love is not defeated when it refuses to strike back. Some of you fear that if you forgive, you will be hurt again, and this fear is understandable. Forgiveness does not mean removing wisdom. It does not mean reopening doors that should remain closed. You may forgive and still walk a different path. You may forgive and still set boundaries. Forgiveness is not reconciliation by force. It is liberation by choice. There is a voice inside many of you that whispers, "If I forgive, they win." But listen carefully. Holding on to bitterness has never made you the victor. It has only extended the battle inside your chest. Forgiveness does not reward the one who harmed you. It heals the one who was harmed. Faith trusts that healing is more powerful than revenge. Even when revenge feels justified, you live in a world that celebrates retaliation. It teaches you to answer insult with insult, wound with wound, silence with silence. But this cycle only multiplies suffering. Forgiveness interrupts what would otherwise continue endlessly. It is a refusal to pass pain forward. When you forgive, you become a stopping place for cruelty. That is not weakness. That is courage shaped by faith. Many of you ask why forgiveness feels so difficult. It is because forgiveness requires you to grieve fully. You cannot forgive what you have not allowed yourself to mourn. You must acknowledge what was lost: trust, innocence, time, safety, love. Only when you face the truth of that loss can forgiveness arise honestly, not as denial, but as release. There are those among you who believe forgiveness must happen quickly, or it is not genuine. But forgiveness often unfolds slowly. It may come in layers. You may forgive today, and tomorrow feel the ache return. This does not mean you failed. It means you are human. Faith is not a single moment. It is a continual turning of the heart toward light. Even when shadows return, forgiveness does not erase memory, but it changes the meaning of memory. What once defined you begins to inform you instead. You are no longer living inside the wound. You are standing outside it, able to see it without being consumed. This is how faith transforms suffering, not by pretending it never happened, but by refusing to let it have the final word. Some of you are holding resentment toward yourselves. You replay choices you regret, words you wish you could take back, paths you should not have walked. You punish yourself in silence, believing that self-condemnation is humility. But unforgiveness toward yourself is still unforgiveness. Faith includes believing that mercy applies to you as well. If you cannot forgive yourself, you are quietly declaring that grace has limits. And that is not truth. Forgiveness invites you to see others not only as the harm they caused, but as broken souls acting from their own wounds. This does not excuse wrongdoing, but it restores clarity. When you understand that hurt people often hurt others, you are no longer surprised by cruelty, nor defined by it. You begin to respond from wisdom rather than reaction. You may wonder why forgiveness brings such resistance within you. It is because part of you fears losing control. Anger gives the illusion of control. It feels active, protective, empowering. Forgiveness feels like stepping into uncertainty. Yet faith has always required stepping where you cannot fully see the ground beneath your feet. When you forgive, you place trust not in the offender, but in love itself. You trust that love is strong enough to carry what you release. You trust that truth does not need your hatred to survive. You trust that your heart was not created to be a courtroom, endlessly replaying evidence, but a sanctuary where peace may dwell. Forgiveness changes the future even when it cannot change the past. It alters the way you speak, the way you love, the way you respond. It softens what bitterness would harden. It opens space where resentment once lived. And in that space, faith grows quietly, steadily, without force. Some of you have been waiting for an apology that may never come. Forgiveness does not require permission from the one who hurt you. It does not wait for acknowledgement. It begins when you decide that your healing will no longer be delayed by another person's silence. Forgiveness is strongest when it is unseen. No applause follows it. No proof is demanded. It happens in the hidden chambers of the heart, where only love and truth bear witness. This is why forgiveness reveals faith at its deepest level. It trusts without reward, releases without guarantee, and loves without leverage. And as you sit here now, listening, breathing, remembering, there's something within you that already knows this truth. You have felt the weight of unforgiveness. You have felt how it tightens your chest, narrows your vision, steals your rest. And you have also glimpsed, perhaps briefly, the lightness that comes when you loosen your grip, even for a moment. Forgiveness is not a command meant to burden you. It is an invitation meant to free you. It is not a demand to erase justice, but a call to trust that justice does not require your bitterness to exist. Faith believes that love sees further than pain and reaches places resentment never can. You are not asked to forgive because it is easy. You are asked to forgive because it is powerful, because it reshapes the one who practices it, because it turns suffering into wisdom instead of poison, because it keeps your heart alive in a world that often tries to harden it. And somewhere deep within your spirit, you can feel that this path, though narrow, leads to a quieter strength, a steadier peace, a faith that does not shout but endures. You begin to sense that forgiveness is not the end of your story, but the moment your story stops being written by what wounded you and starts being written by what heals you. And as that realization settles, gently, almost imperceptibly. Your breath slows, your thoughts soften, and your heart begins to loosen its hold, just enough for the next truth to approach without resistance, without fear, without needing to be named, because it is already waiting where pain once stood, silent, patient, unforced. And in that quiet space where resistance loosens, you begin to notice how forgiveness does not arrive as a dramatic event, but as a steady presence, like light filling a room, not by force, but by patience. It does not rush you. It waits for your consent. It understands the pace of your healing better than you do. Forgiveness knows that trust must be rebuilt within yourself before it can be extended outward, and faith honors that timing. You may feel a subtle shift, a small easing where there was once constant tension. This is not because the past has changed, but because your relationship to it has. Forgiveness gently untangles your identity from your injury. You are no longer only the one who was hurt. You are also the one who chose not to let hurt define the rest of your days. Faith stands quietly behind that choice, not demanding perfection, only sincerity. Some of you worry that forgiveness will make you forget important lessons. But forgiveness sharpens wisdom rather than dulling it. When bitterness fades, clarity grows. You begin to see patterns without rage clouding your sight. You learn where to place your trust, how to listen to your intuition, how to protect your heart without sealing it shut. Forgiveness teaches discernment without cynicism, caution without cruelty. As forgiveness deepens, compassion follows not as obligation, but as understanding. You realize that many wounds are passed down, not chosen. That fear often disguises itself as anger. That insecurity often speaks as control. Seeing this does not minimize harm, but it removes the illusion that harm is personal destiny. You are no longer convinced that you were targeted because you were unworthy. You begin to see that you were present when someone else's brokenness overflowed. Faith strengthens when you release the need to be the judge of every outcome. Forgiveness trusts that truth will surface without your constant defense. It trusts that goodness does not depend on your vigilance to survive. It allows you to rest, and rest, too, is an act of faith, believing that you do not need to stay alert forever to be safe. There is a peace that comes when you stop rehearsing arguments that will never be spoken aloud, when you no longer imagine what you would say if given another chance. Forgiveness ends conversations that exist only to keep wounds open. It redirects your energy toward living rather than reliving. And in that redirection, faith quietly matures. You may discover that forgiveness brings unexpected grief. As resentment leaves, sadness may surface, the sadness of what could have been, of what was hoped for and never arrived. This grief is honest. It is not failure. It is the heart finally free to feel without armor. Allow it. Grief acknowledged becomes wisdom. Grief resisted becomes bitterness. Faith welcomes tears because they wash rather than wound. Forgiveness also reshapes how you see yourself in the present. You begin to notice how often you were patient, how deeply you loved, how bravely you endured. You stop measuring your worth by the harm you survived and start recognizing the strength it revealed. Forgiveness restores dignity that pain tried to steal. As your heart softens, you may fear becoming vulnerable again. Yet vulnerability does not mean exposure without discernment. It means openness guided by wisdom. Forgiveness does not strip you of protection. It replaces fear-based defenses with truth-based boundaries. You learn to say yes without self-betrayal and no without guilt. Faith grows quieter as it grows stronger. It no longer needs to prove itself through reaction. It expresses itself through steadiness, through gentleness that does not waver under pressure. Forgiveness is one of the ways faith speaks without words. It is visible in how you listen, how you pause, how you choose kindness even when you could choose withdrawal. You may notice that forgiving one, not because pain becomes smaller, but because your capacity for peace becomes larger. Forgiveness teaches your heart that it can survive release, that it can let go and remain whole, that safety does not come from holding tightly, but from trusting deeply. In forgiving, you also change the way you influence others. Your presence becomes calmer. Your responses become measured. Without intending to, you model a different way of living, one not driven by resentment or reactivity. This influence is quiet, but it is powerful. Faith often works this way. Unseen, unannounced, transformative. Some days, forgiveness will feel complete. Other days, it will feel fragile. Both are acceptable. Faith is not invalidated by fluctuation. It is proven by return. Each time you choose release, again, even after pain resurfaces, you strengthen the path toward peace. Forgiveness is not a destination reached once. It is a direction chosen repeatedly. And as time passes, you may look back and realize that the memory which once caused sharp pain now brings a softened awareness. Not joy, not approval, but distance, space, breath. This is not forgetting. This is healing. Forgiveness does not erase the scar. It removes the infection. You begin to understand why forgiveness is the strongest faith. Because it asks you to believe in what you cannot see yet. Peace that has not fully arrived. Justice that unfolds beyond your control. Love that remains intact without retaliation. It asks you to trust that light is patient and persistent, even when darkness has had a long season. In forgiving, you align your heart with something larger than immediate emotion. You participate in a rhythm that restores rather than divides. You step out of cycles that exhaust and into a current that carries. Faith does not force this step. It invites it gently, again and again. There will be moments when you forget this invitation. Moments when old anger flares, when familiar bitterness returns. Do not condemn yourself. Return is part of the journey. Each return is an act of faith. Each return deepens the groove of peace within you. And gradually, without announcement, you will notice that forgiveness has changed not only how you feel about the past, but how you approach the present. You listen more carefully. You react less quickly. You choose words that heal rather than harm. This is not because you are trying harder, but because your heart is lighter. Forgiveness gives you back your future. It frees your imagination to hope again. It allows joy to enter without suspicion. It makes room for trust that is thoughtful rather than naive. Faith smiles quietly at this transformation, knowing it did not need to rush you to arrive here. Now, let your breath slow. Let your shoulders soften. Allow the images that have surfaced to fade gently, like evening light dimming at the edge of a window. You are not required to resolve everything tonight. Peace grows in rest. Forgiveness continues its work even when you sleep. Remember this softly. You are not defined by what wounded you. You are shaped by what you choose to release. Love does not abandon you when you forgive. It meets you there. Trust this gentleness. Walk with it. Let it hold you where strength once demanded hardness. Be still. Be kind to your own heart. Faith is near. Forgiveness is already at work. Amen.